is my project number 3, and I'll be doing an interview and 3 summaries of 3 different papers, and I'm going over the costs, benefits, and externalities between them. Paper 1 is Eat Less Meat is a message for a rich world and a food's first net zero plan. Farm to fork, food systems account for about a third of the global greenhouse gas emissions, and much of that footprint is linked to livestock farming. It says meat farming contributes to deforestation, methane, and biodiversity loss. It talked about how the United States has the highest annual per capita supply for the consumption at 122.8 kilograms. It also discusses a Rome-based United Nations agency that's trying to come up with ways to reduce food shortages and to help make current food production hurt the environment less. Some of the data it talks about regarding some of the food's impacts compared to others is interesting. It says that 18% of the carbon released by food is through production, 31% is through livestock and fisheries, 24% is through land use, and 27% is through crop production. Paper number 2 is called FAO makes case for meat, eggs, and milk as essential source of nutrients. This article begins with talking about the FAO doing a study, talking about 500 papers and 250 policy documents. The author talks about how meat has essential macro and micronutrients to people's diets. It gives more data on nutrients, saying 327 million children and 1.2 billion women have suffer a deficiency in iron, vitamin A, or zinc. The majority of children, 3/4 of them, live in South and East Asia, the Pacific, and Sub-Saharan Africa. It then talks about some of the hazards that come with farming and how they can harm the environment, such as releasing carbon, emissions, runoff, etc. It also discusses the different health effects of processed versus non-processed red meat. Processed red meat has been linked to colon cancer and other health issues, but moderately eating unprocessed red meat shows much lower levels of decrease. It also says consuming milk, eggs, and poultry resulting in inconclusive data on if it hurts people or not. The article seemed like it was more promoting meat, but also reducing carbon emissions. Paper number 3 is called 9 charts that show U.S. factory farming is even bigger than you realize. The article starts off with negatives of industrial farming. The author says it's ruining landscapes, taking away biodiversity, releasing carbon emissions, etc. The author says the big farms chickens are being raised and can sell up to 5,000 birds per year. The United States raises more chickens now than any other meat. Chicken in particular has gone up significantly due to the Americans eating it more. They note it's because people are eating it as a healthier alternative to red meat. But there's a downside to eating more chicken. Ethically, you are killing more lives than you would cows because there isn't as much meat per chicken compared to cows. Then it goes into something we haven't really talked about much yet is disease. The bird flu is a major risk of killing hundreds and thousands of birds, making it a thing to worry about. Birds die when they get the flu, and scientists are worried it may mutate and spread to people. It then goes into brief detail on industrialized mega pig and cow farms and how they are putting small farms out of business. The manure is bad because it runs in local waterways and makes them toxic. It creates algae blooms. It can kill people. It can kill animals. It kills animals that can get into it, like dogs. But overall, I would say this article is the least informative. Not only not providing solutions to the topics discussed, but also by not saying anything positive either. Now I'm going to go over the costs and the benefits. Some of the costs for big farming is the money to buy the feed, the money to buy the land, and the taxes for the land. You got to pay for employees. You got to pay insurance. It costs a lot, like electricity and water. That's more of like production costs as well as equipment production costs. But I'm gonna go over some of the benefits. that were in between the three articles. Meat feeds a lot of people. It has lots of nutrients for cheap prices. It's quick and efficient, and brings a diverse diet to people. Now I'm going to talk about some of the externalities with mass-produced farming. Some of the negatives are CO2 emissions through cows releasing methane gas, CO2 emissions through processing in general. Um, the farms ruin property value nearby because of the smells, harsh working conditions for the meat producers, um, deforestation, ruining biodiversity, creates more air pollution in general, more particulates. But there are some positive externalities with this as well. We can feed more people and more jobs as well. And I have a theory myself on how we can intervene society to make meat production better, less efficient, and humane. I would say make meat production more economically efficient and better for the environment is to eat more farm raised seafood. Farm raised seafood produces seafood in big quantities that don't hurt habitat nearly as much as farm bred meat and chicken. It also doesn't damage habitat nearly as much. It is better to have a facility fish farming than fish farming out of a river. Uh, when fish farming is in a river, it can disturb the local population of fish and hurt fish migratory routes. It's also more humane than Mabel and chicken farming. Fish and shellfish have been studied to where some scientists believe they can't even feel pain. There are some downsides to aquaculture fishing as well. Aqueducts.org has an article called Environmentally Friendly Aquaculture Key to Sustainable Fish Farming developed in Nigeria, which lists a few main ones. Some of the negatives are eutrophication, produced or reduced dissolved oxygen levels in nearby waterways, production of toxic microorganisms, and hurting wild animals and fish. They do provide solutions to these problems, though. Most of the time, it's proper planning, improving feeding strategy and type of feed, uh, recycling waste, and just good farm management. And most of these solutions can be followed through government regulations and policies. These farms do not take up much room, and they offer safe, fulfilling jobs, and they provide lots of food. Now, let's get to the interview. All right, this is my friend Jacob. I'm gonna ask him some questions
Jacob,
about some processed meats. Okay. How much meat do you think you eat per week?
um, I'm on a I'm on a full meat diet for the next month. So I try and eat like two chicken breasts usually is my meal, some hot sauce. So that two times a day probably.
Okay. All right. So I guess that goes to the next question. What kind of meat do you eat the most? I guess it would be chicken, right?
Yeah, chicken, a lot of pork too. Big pork fan here.
Okay. If the price of meat doubled, how much would that affect you?
Not at all because I have a meal plan here, and I just take what I need, so it wouldn't really
Okay.
affect me.
Uh, What do you think about modern factory farming?
Can you
Like
elaborate?
like um like the big industrial like chicken corporations, like do you think they may be like cruel, or do you think, we have to have that to be able to feed everybody?
I think it's probably pretty necessary. I don't think people are going to go out and kill their own chickens. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
person. I mean,
true.
I might, but I don't think Sarah down the road is gonna kill chickens herself.
All right. What would the perfect diet look like in your society?
Um, just a well balanced um vegetables, meat, not so highly processed. Shop the perimeter of the supermarket, not the inside. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Uh, do you like any meat alternatives like buffalo cauliflower things? You
No,
know what I'm talking about?
no,
No.
no. Thank you.
Um, do you think genetically modified food is good or bad. Like GMOs, like those things you see where they're growing meat in labs.
Oh no, bad thing. I'm a hunter myself, so I like natural, all natural.
Okay, so but do you think the genetically modified meat is unethical compared to eating like normal meat?
Unethical?
Because I think the genetically modified meat, I think they still use like animal DNA
Yeah,
to
I'm
like
not
make it.
very educated in that, so like honestly.
Right? Do you think the government needs to update their opinion on how healthy meat is? Because they have processed red meat like bacon and like ground beef as like a carcinogenic where it like causes cancer, but like steak doesn't give you cancer. Do you think they need to
Yeah,
change that?
maybe. Probably, yeah. They probably educate us a little more on that.